It's not like amateur radio is more dangerous than anything else. It is not. But it is dangerous enough that you need to pay attention. You could bend over to tie up your shoes and have a heart attack. It's dangerous. It's how you do it. What health hazards are present in electrical current flowing through a circuit? If you have too much of it, it will kill cells. If you have, example, if you got your hand up like this and you get a shock, it'll throw your arm out. It could be that it'll hit something or something. You get fractures that way. So you be careful not to take electricity into your body unless you have to. Now, when you want to check a couple of wires, use a meter. But the best way to check them is like this, not like this. Because if I touch one wire on each end and it's hot, it'll go through my heart. Yes, I have a heart, despite what my children say. But if you touch it this way, you'll feel a little buzz, but it won't really hurt you because it's only in those two fingers. Question. One thing you can do when you take a radio apart and you're standing there looking at it, put one hand in your pocket. Do you know why you do that? So if you come in contact with a radio, intentionally or accidental, it doesn't go through your heart. You'll get a buzz, but it'll go through your leg. That won't hurt your heart. How much a person can take is depending on how big they are. Debbie's a pretty small person, and so I would bet that she'd take less than, for example, I would take. I don't mean to pick on you, Debbie, but it is a fact that most people know you're smaller than I am.
I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you, as I'm getting wider.
Wider doesn't count. So it's impossible to say that so many watts or so many amps or so many volts hurt you because your size, how much water content there is in your body, things of that nature will vary it. But down here on table number 9.1, the bottom of 9.2, you'll see some idea about what it is. A 1 milliamp will give you a slight tingle. You may actually know that there's something there. 1,000 to 4,300 milliamps, the rhythmic pumping action of the heart ceases. That is a bad thing. Muscular contraction and nerve damage occur. Death is likely. So it's not what it's how much you get rather than how long or anything like that. And if you fall in a position where you're on the wire or something like that, you won't be able to get up. What's first aid for a person who's fallen across an electrical wire? You run over and grab them and pull them off?
No, because then you get the same shock.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I have always recommended that people who are building their own shacks put a power switch near the door. So somebody walks past, I'm taking 110 volts out of the radio because I got my hands in the radio. They can hit that switch and it'll turn the power off in the whole room. Then you can come over and pick me up off the radio. But you need an electrician to do that. But it is important to be able to do that, to turn all the power in the shop off, so that you're not going to take the voltage. There's other ways to do that, particularly with the extension wires where they have a strip of them and you just turn the whole thing off. But you need to be careful that the people in the house with you know about how to turn off the power. Doesn't take a lot of time to tell them, but it's important that they do that. Let me see what we got here. Capacitors in a power supply will hold it. So when you turn the power supply off, you watch the needle go, and while it's up, you get power out of that thing. Don't touch it. If there is an interlock on anything, sometimes there'll be interlocks on radios. And what that means is when you open the radio up, it'll kill the power. Do not get smart and bypass it. Because when that thing's up, you're perfectly safe. If you bypass that, it's going to hurt you. That power is still there in the radio until the power supply drains. Most batteries are okay, but if you have a powerful battery, like out of a car, you can get a shock off that. You don't want that. When you're going to work on radios or equipment like that, take off jewelry. If you touch it near a ring or a bracelet, you're going to pick up the juice. Don't work alone. Even if the other person is sitting in a room with you reading a book, don't work alone. Electricity moves a lot faster than you do, so don't forget that. It's like when you turn off a light, you can't get out of the room before it gets dark. Electricity is very fast that way. Now read this material on the first 4 pages. It's stuff you probably already know. It's stuff you probably already understand, but you don't have to pass a test on it every time, but it'll get you if you're not careful with it. Now, carrying wire, it comes in different sizes. I want you to look at the on 4-4, there's a table 9.2. You see there how the amount of current carried in a wire is inverse to the number of the wire. 6 carries 55 volts, 10 carries 30. See how the numbers are going down as the numbers go. The numbers of the wire go up and the numbers of the power go down. What size fuse should you put into a circuit when you're changing the fuse? Fuse is burned out. What do you put back in?
The same size.
Size. Okay. Why did they put "In God We Trust" on coins? Some people are still using pennies put into a fuse.
Yeah, I
God
remember
We
that.
Trust- In God We Trust is all you got.
I remember as a kid, people always did that. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if that's true, but some people need that.
Yeah.
Okay, most electrical currents in radio have a 3-wire line. One, the black is what carries the power, and it's black or the red. Let me see. This is yeah. The black carries the red, carries the power. Could be also red. The grounding wire is white. Make sure that it's done correctly. If you put them in wrong on a wire on a plug that you work out on yourself, you could do some very serious damage to your equipment or your body. Never replace a fuse or a circuit with any one except the same size. And you ought to understand and know how to change a wire. For example, let's say the wire that goes from the back of the radio into the plug, and it's been frayed or broken or something like that. And you look in the back of the radio, you open it up, you see that there's 3 places for that thing to hook on. And you make sure that the color that you attach the new wire matches the one that you are taking off. You want to be sure of that. Now, there's one trick I played on myself several times where there'll be one wire, a braided wire, that will go on to the wrong plug. It's not going to hurt anything, but it'll scare you to death. You plug that thing in and one of those little wires pops. It's okay, but you want to be real careful that you don't do it and have too much power going through your radio. It'll burn out certain parts. You understand what I'm talking about when you have maybe a whole bunch of wires together and you twist them together? Maybe one of them's not going there, it goes over to the other attachment. That will scare you to death, I'll tell you right now. When you put the wiring into your station, it's a good idea to either hire an electrician to do the work or to come and check you after you're finished. You don't have to do this every week, but make sure it's right the first time. Lightning protection. How many people have seen lightning protection? Maybe you put it on some appliance or something like that. It won't work if lightning hits your antenna. There's too much power coming through for anything that man makes to what it's good for is if lightning strikes near your antenna, the entire area will be electrified and it'll keep that from coming in. It's impossible to see how big a lightning bolt is, but if it hits the ground, it'll be electrified for as much as a couple of weeks later. The only way to go off is for it to come off slowly. Now, I'm going to talk about how to ground your station. Have you been to the store and you've seen those big long rods that you put on a cattle fence. You go over to Kmart, they have they have a ranch store. They've got those there. And what I used to do was I would lay one down across the bottom of my radio, and all the ground wires from the various pieces of equipment would go into that. Just wire them there. Little piece of what am I trying to say? The wires you have to hold wires together in an engine, and you put all those together, and then you take one wire, a big, strong, heavy one, off the end of that light, the rod, put it outside, and put that in the ground. So you got that. This goes down about 2-3 feet. That will ground your station very well, and you'll have no problems with it. Do you understand what I'm talking to you about with the grounding?
Basically, what I'm hearing is have an electrician come in and do all this.
Yes, it's worth the money, because then you know it's right. And if your
Yeah.
if your insurance goes up, or if they come in and say, well, what happened here? There was a fire, and they'll say, well, Debbie did her own wiring here for the radio station, and that's probably what did it. They don't even have to find out. If they can say that a non-electrician put in your wiring, you can be in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you take those stakes of the, I can't remember the name of them. It's for electrical fencing, and they're grounding rods. Yeah, grounding rods for an electrical fence. And you put one of those in the ground, and then hook the end of all your grounds from the radios and various things like that across, and it'll go across on the grounding rod you lay under the table, and then you put that outside, put a big strong wire on it. It goes outside, and that will carry anything out to be grounded. It'll go into the ground. You won't have any trouble with it. But you're correct. For a practical standpoint, having an electrician come in for an hour or so to put your station wiring together. You still have to answer the questions on the test, but you know your station is okay. Now, here's the grounding system that I was just talking to you about on Tier 9.2 on page 9.6. You see where all of the various things that carry power are hooked to this big ground? Well, they're saying an RF, a half-inch copper pipe will do, and it will. Piece of flashing. Aluminum is not as good as copper, but it's cheaper. And you put all the wires into that, and then it'll go outside into the ground. And that's going to be what you need for grounding your station. You want to be careful that the wires going into the plugs don't get across these wires here in the back. Those are bare wires going onto the back, and you don't want to have those shorting each other.
Bob, I have a question.
Yes.
We used to run CB base stations in our home,
Yes.
and I don't remember ever having to do this. There's a difference between the CB base station and the one that we're trying for?
You may run more power. But if I don't think CB radio equipment, when you buy it, it doesn't talk about that.
No.
Assuming nobody's going to do it. Well, that's dangerous. Now, if you can, in the back, there's a screw that should say something like GND. That's ground. You attach a wire to that and go down to this copper pipe or whatever you're going to put across. What I just described to you is a grounding rod for a electric fence.
Okay.
CBs are under the same laws that we are, but the people who are doing it are not that knowledgeable. You probably didn't have to take any of this stuff to get a
No.
CB. And that's why you see a lot of houses with CB people in them that burn down when ham radio people don't. I'm not saying there's anything stupid about being a CBer, but if they don't know this stuff, then they're not going to do it. And if they don't,
Yeah, nobody ever said a thing to us. We just bought the thing, plugged it in and used it.
yeah, and it probably worked pretty well.
It did.
But if you had any problems with it, can you see how dangerous it could get?
Yeah.
So anyway, managing your station, you should have something kind of like this one on 9-2 on 9.6. That will get you grounded for everything that's carrying power through your station. Shortcuts and things like that. Hey, you're cooking there.
I lost you. I had to, the connection got lost. Did anyone else lose you?
No,
No,
I don't think so.
That was weird. You froze and then you totally went off and I had to come back on again. So weird. Okay.
Anyway, don't take short cuts on this because
Harder station.
it's not necessarily the safest thing to do. Interference. Okay, what's interference? It tells you a detailed thing here, but it's a signal that's coming or out of your station that is interfering with something. Maybe there'll be something a part will fail in your radio, and you'll find out that there is a small signal. You can't hear it, but it's there, and it's a spurious emission, a little thing that's throwing signal, and it's not supposed to. Well, if that gets out into the world, that's going to interfere with my ability to talk to you. I'll be talking to you and you'll hear in the background a buzz or a whistle or something like that. This is something that the FCC can fine you for. So if you have something like that, better check it out, then have somebody who knows about the radios do it. Again, it's not a big deal unless it goes wrong and you don't want it to go wrong on your shift. Sometimes you'll have a leak out of the antenna line or something like that. You're throwing signal somewhere else. You remember I told you the story about the Lutheran minister that asked the ham radio operator what his call sign was and everything? That is not a joke. That can actually happen. And we don't want you to have that done because guess whose fault it is? It's coming out of your signal, coming out of your radio. It's your fault and you have to mitigate it. And sometimes it's very expensive, sometimes it's not. Did you have something, Nancy?
no,
There used to be, I haven't seen any for a while, but you would put a bunch of filters on that you would give to your neighbors, and they would put it into the antenna lead off for their television. And if there was a signal coming in, it was supposed to take it out. Sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't. But a lot of people would go out and they'd buy 20, 30 of these things. And then they go around to all their neighbors and they would hand them these things and say, put this on your deal so that my radio will not interfere. It shouldn't interfere anyway, because television today is a lot farther away from ham radio bands than it used to be. That's digital. But like I say, you are responsible for any distortion that happens. What I always like to do is when I put up a new antenna, I got the antenna up there, put the wire into the back window, sit there for about 2 weeks. People will come over to your house. I saw your antenna there and it's messing up my television. No, it's not, because I haven't plugged it into the radio yet. And but you know who your problem neighbors are going to be, because those are the ones. There's nothing wrong with inviting your neighbors into the house and saying, I put up a ham radio station and look at this, and isn't it wonderful? And in the case of emergency, I'll be able to call the sheriff and so forth and so on. And they'll be happy to have you as a neighbor. But I had one story that I heard about where a guy was putting up his ham radio station, and his neighbor came over and says, you killed my father. What happened was the older gentleman had a pacemaker. Pacemakers don't affect radio waves and vice versa. But it just happened that the day he put up his antenna, the father had a malfunction in the pacemaker and died. Nobody's fault, it just happened, because that's the nature of machines that men build. But if you take this week-long sabbatical, put your antenna up, and then wait for the neighbors to come over, and then show them that you're not plugged in, sometimes will help that. Now, if you're having problems with signals getting into and out of your equipment, on page 9-7, here's some pictures of what you do. The ferrite coil, which is simply a coil around the wire of the power line, or some of those sort of things. It will filter out the inappropriate signals that are coming in, or you'll keep them from going out too. They're called band pass filters, or a low band pass. There's a high band pass, and there's a bypass. And basically those will keep signals that are not appropriate from going into and coming out of your equipment. This is a good thing for you to talk to experienced hams about. If you find out you have signal coming out of your radio that's going somewhere it shouldn't, talk to the hams in your club. How do I handle this? What can I do? They'll get some good information that way. I've also heard a lot of bullshit, but hey, what you're getting is what you're paying for. Anyway, that's how you handle interference. There's a nice talk about ferrites here on 9-8 at the top of the page. And okay, interference from amateur radio. If it's coming from you, you are responsible to fix it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's coming from you. It could be his television that's interfering with your ham radio. It depends on where the leaks are. Read this material carefully, because it's one of the things that really gets us in trouble with our neighbors. They don't understand this stuff. Your radio is new to the neighborhood, You know about it and it's interfering with him. He doesn't know why, he doesn't know what it's doing. You need to be able to do a little peacekeeping here. Um, Harmonics are, when you put out a signal, there's a harmonic above it and a harmonic below it. Not necessarily there all the time, but it could be. And if your signal is throwing harmonics, it'll be your signal, and then below that and above it, there'll be another exact duplicate of your signal. Won't be quite as powerful, but it'll be there. And it'll really throw the balance of other pieces of equipment into put it in the garbage, I'll tell you. But have you ever been watching television or something and hear a ham radio come over your television? Okay.
No, but it's funny, we have the microphone at church, and every so often we hear the microphone from the Baptist church across the street.
Uh-huh. What you're doing is you're picking up their line is leaking, and it's coming across the road to you. And what you want to do is you want to teach a real good Book of Mormon lesson so that it'll go the other way.
That's what we, yeah, it never seems to go the other way, I know.
Well, anyway, the story about the Lutheran minister and the ham radio operator, I don't know if it's true or not, but it certainly could be. So you want to be sure that you're not interfering with people, because they can complain. And if they complain to the FCC, then a whole bunch of stuff starts to happen, and you don't want it to happen to you. I had a time when my wife was listening to FM radio in the living room, and I was in another room of the house talking on the 2 meters, and she was picking it up. Yes, Rufus, I understand. I'll talk now, though. It was not a big problem for us to deal with. But if it was across the street, it would be. And it was going from my radio to her. Draw a circle, you know, that signal's going out in every single direction you can imagine. Good practice in your station. You are responsible to have good practice and do things correctly according to the FCC in your station at all times. If you are not, somebody will complain and they will come and be naughty to you. We don't want that. Even Rufus. I know he's going to station right after the class is over, and he'll get himself in trouble, but I can't help that. I want to leave the rest of this for next time. Some of it gets technical. There may be questions, so I'll just leave it at that. Anybody have any questions for what we've handled tonight? Bob?
You're muted.
Okay, I've got a pacemaker implant myself.
Yeah.
As far as radio waves affecting it, they will not. The only extra thing that can affect pacemakers nowadays used to be microwave would.
Yeah.
They're better now. The only thing that will affect them now is a strong magnetic signal.
Yeah. But when they first started to deal with pacemakers, when they first came out on the market, ham radio could affect them. And so it's been improved since then.
Well, microwaves used to in the past too, but they don't anymore.
Yeah, well, that's why. Is because they got on the problem and solved it. I had a fellow who was in my class, and he said he had a microwave or a pacemaker. Would it be okay for him to build a station? Well, he called his doctor and he called the pacemaker people, and everybody told him it'd be all right.
Okay. Bob,
Yeah.
because the other Bob wasn't with our group last night, and I'm also recording this, so Brenda will be able to see it and all that. Would you mind explaining just a little bit what we'll be doing for the general class?
Okay. As I told you the other night, I'll be leaving the area, but not right away. Greg is going to pick up on the general class. He's going to be taking his general class license at the same time he takes his technician. Sure that he'll be able to do it if he can have the time to prepare. And he is going to teach the general class license. We'll do that as soon as your technician licenses are all in your hands. But I will be helping Greg until I leave the area. And I want you to know I have complete faith in his ability to get you through this. I have a lot more stories. I've been doing it longer, but I'm giving him some material and he'll develop this. I'm sure he can do it. And as long as I'm here, I will be helping him answering your questions. So I hope you can give him a vote of confidence, and we will all get our generals together. And I will be in North Carolina waiting to talk to you over the radio.
You're muted, Carol.
As long as you keep making good desserts, you're okay.
So,
That won't be a problem.
anybody have any other questions about this material we've done? This is important stuff. Well, safety, I already know about electricity. It goes through the wires and bites you. But this is very important because we're dealing with stuff that's going not just in my house, it's going out. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. But the idea is this is real important. And unless you're a cat, you have to pass the test. Because I know Rufus is going to get on the air somehow.
He'll probably beat us with a score.
I don't think he's going to take the test. I think he's just going to go pirate on it.
Geez, better point already.
So anyway, that's what I have for tonight.
Thank you. You always give a very good one, Bob.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, thank you. All I can say is I will just keep studying, but at least I'm seeing my scores inching up. That's making me feel a little better.
That's what's going to happen, Debbie. You just keep going and up and up and up. And then pretty soon they'll be asking you to teach the class.
Not gonna happen.
One of the things you need to do is in your house, when you set up your station, make it accessible so people can come over, maybe not get a hold of it without you being there, but at the same time, they'll see it, they'll talk about it. Hey, are you a ham radio operator? And show them a little about the station and tell them that, you know, we can get you if you want to do it. It's not easy. I never told you it was easy, but it was simple.
You're a pest.
Okay.
Of course he's a pest. That's what he's here for.
Well, it's time for their dinner, and they're all four in here telling me, get off the thing and come feed us.
Take care of the important stuff, Mom.
Mine is napping by the wood stove. He's happy.
Oh, no. Probably already had his dinner.
I keep food out all the time for my animals, so he munches when he's hungry.
I can't do that because I got one that weighs 20 pounds as it is, and she'll just eat all day long. So
I leave food out all the time for the 3 dogs, and there's always food in the dish, and the same thing with the cat. So these guys are really good about that. So thank goodness.
Okay.
all right, gang, we'll see you Monday.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Very good. Have a wonderful Christmas,
Have
everybody.
a really great.
Merry
You too,
Christmas,
Debbie.
everyone.
Thank you.
Merry
and everyone
Christmas,
else as well.
everybody.
Mhm.
Good night.
Have a blessed Christmas.
Good
You
night.
too,
Good
Anne
night.
Merry Christmas.
Good night.
Okay.
Okay, now I gotta fix my phone where I can turn it off again.